Hello students, good morning. So in today's session we will be discussing about demonetization and impact of government policy changes on business and industry. So before going to demonetization and impact of government policy changes on business and industry, let's go back to the other concepts which we studied in the previous class, that is your liberalization, privatization and globalization. So we learnt about liberalization, so where the rules and regulations, which is the unnecessary rules and regulations, are totally liberalized. When coming to privatization, the control of the public sector undertakings which were not effectively or efficiently done by the public sector were made open to private sector in order to, or in with the objective that the private sector would do the things much more better than the public sector. So when coming to globalization, it is nothing but the people or the government, what it did is it opened the market to the foreign investors. So when foreign investors came to India and invested, that helped to have foreign direct investment, that is FDI. So before 1991 the concept of FDI was not available in India, so it was difficult for the foreign investors to come to India, and moreover there were lots of rules and regulations which were very hectic. The people, that is the foreign investors, found it very difficult to invest in India. So after 1991, that is after the industrial policy of 1991, what happened is those rules and regulations were totally reduced. It is liberalized, and the foreign investors were they were welcomed, or they were asked to invest in India. That is foreign direct investment, that is for total investment by the foreign investors were took place or were possible after 1991. So in today's session we are going to discuss about demonetization. So you are very popular with the word demonetization. So what happened is on November 8th 2016, our Prime Minister, that is Narendra Modi, announced the demonetization of rupees 500 and rupees 1000 currency notes. So 500 and 1000 currencies were totally banned on November 8th through 2016. So all at once he gave a press meet saying that all the legal tender will stop, that is all the 500 and 1000 notes will be totally demonetized. So furthermore, the bank, that is the government, gave 2 months to deposit demonetized notes in any bank. So what they did is they told that the 2 months were given. 2 months were given, and they were told that this amount which is already demonetized has to be deposited into the bank within that 2 months which is given by the government. Okay, so what is this demonetization? So it is nothing but a process of stripping the currency unit of its status as a legal tender. Stripping a currency unit of its status, taking the value, or taking the value or taking off the currency unit of its status as legal tender. So it will no more be a legal tender. So that is demonetization notes are no longer valid as legal currency. They are not used as legal currency. So what happens is, like usually a new currency replaces the old currency unit. So before this 2000, that is 2000 came into existence, what they did is they demonetized 500 and 1000, and they brought new currency of 1000 and 500. Even 200 also was a new currency which was introduced into the market. Okay, so before this 2016, this is not the first time that India is going on with demonetization. Okay, so 2016 is not the first instance of demonetization in India. So in fact the demonetization happened in India even before 2016. Okay, so in 1946, in 1946 the RBI had demonetized rupees 1000 and 10,000 currency notes. Yes, we haven't seen 10,000 currency notes in 1946. RBI had demonetized the 1,000 and 10,000 currency note, which were then under circulation, which was under circulation, but totally it was a demonetization. So after 1946, it was in 1954, the government introduced new currency notes of 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 rupees. In 1954, the government introduced new currency notes of 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000. Okay, so after that, in 1978, the Morarji Desai government, what it did is it demonetized rupees 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000. The reason behind this is to curb illegal transactions and anti-social activity. So in order to curb, or in order to stop, or in order to reduce the illegal transaction as well as anti-social activities. So what Morarji Desai government did is demonetized 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 notes. Okay, so when coming to the present, that is the recent demonetization that which took place in 2016. Yes, in the month of November 2016 by Prime Minister Modi. So what the government of India, it made an announcement on November 8, 2016 with a profound implication for Indian economy. That is the largest denomination note. It may be 500 and 1,000 were totally demonetized with immediate effect. So ceasing to be with immediate effect, that is ceasing to be a legal tender except for new specified purposes, that is few specified purposes such as paying utility bills. So except paying utility bills, there is these demonetized notes were not used in any other manner. So only for the utility bills or for paying utility bill, these demonetized notes were used. Okay, so this demonetization led to somewhere around 86% of money in circulation invalid. It led to about 86% of money in circulation invalid. So the people of India had to deposit the invalid currency into the bank, which came along with a restriction placed on cash withdrawal. So there was a restriction in cash withdrawal as well. So in other words, we can say that restrictions were placed on the convertibility of domestic money and bank deposits, on the convertibility of domestic money and bank deposits. So what was the aim of this demonetization? Okay, so the reason why the government demonetized 500 is one is that the financial, that is to plug financing to terrorist. Okay, so when this demonetization is made, then the financing to terrorist can be stopped. Then the second one is to stop the black money. Yes, okay, so the black money can be totally stopped with this. The third one is to help the reduce interest rate in the banking system, in order to reduce the interest rates in the banking system. And the fourth one is to help formalize Indian informal economy. Yeah, so in order to reduce the extent of cash transaction and help creation of cash, that is less cash economy. Okay, so this was the main intention. Okay, so aim is to curb corruption, for counterfeiting that is use of high demonetization notes for illegal activity. So what they do is, like, usually when they carry on with illegal activity, most of the time what they do is, like, they use the currency of high denomination. Yes, they use the currency of high denomination. So especially the accumulation of black money generated by income that was not being declared to the tax authority. So especially the accumulation of black money generated by the income that has not been declared by the tax authority. The amount which is not declared by the tax authority is nothing but the black money. Okay, so we'll come to the feature of demonetization. Yeah, features of demonetization. So what is this feature of demonetization? So demonetization, first one is that demonetization is viewed as tax administration measure. It is viewed as tax administration measure. So cash holdings arising from declared income was readily deposited in banks and exchanged for new notes. Holdings arising from declared income was readily deposited in banks and exchanged for new notes. But those with black money had to declare their unaccounted wealth and pay taxes at a penalty rate. So the one with the unaccounted money, that is the black money, had to declare their unaccounted wealth and pay taxes at a penalty rate. So for the amount which is not paid as tax, they had to pay tax, that is penalty, for the unaccounted wealth which they had. Okay, so that was the first one. The second one is demonetization is also interpreted as a shift on the part of the government, indicating that tax evasion will no longer be tolerated or accepted. So it was interpreted as a shift on the part of the government. So government, it indicated that tax evasion will no longer be tolerated or accepted. So each and every person who has to pay the tax, or who comes under the tax slab, will have to pay the tax to the government, and there will be no evasion. That is, evasion of tax will no longer be tolerated by the government. Why? Because when demonetization took place, the person with the unaccounted money had to show his details. Yes, that is details of his amount, that is wealth, and in case he has not paid any tax, then obviously he will have to pay some amount of penalty. Okay, the third one is demonetization. It also led to tax administration channelizing savings into formal financial system. Demonetization also led to tax administration channelizing savings into the formal financial system. So though much of the cash that has been deposited in the bank system is bound to be withdrawn, but some of the new deposit schemes offered by the bank will continue to provide the base loan at low interest rate, at low or lower interest rate. So though much of the cash that has been deposited in the bank system is bound to be withdrawn, what happens is, like, some of the new deposit schemes offered by the banks will continue to provide base loans at low interest rate. So the another feature, that is the fourth feature of the demonetization, was that to create less cash or cash light economy. So Modi always concentrated on digital India, where he said that we have to convert the cash transaction into cashless transaction, that is channelizing more savings through the formal financial system and improving tax compliance. So though there are arguments against this, as digital transaction require use of cell phones for customers. Okay, so one is the customer, that is the person who is using this, requires the digital, that is the one who is doing a digital transaction requires the use of cell phone, and a point of sale machine for the merchants. Yes, a point of sale machine for the merchant. So which will only work if there is a internet connectivity. So without internet connectivity, the point of sale machines as well as the cell phones cannot be used for digital transaction. So digital transaction takes place only with the help of internet. Okay, so on the contrary, these disadvantages are counterbalanced by an understanding that it helps people into a formal economy, so thereby increasing financial saving and reducing tax evasion. So this is the main intention or feature of demonetization. So next we'll go to the next, that is the last concept of this chapter, that is business environment, that is impact of government policy changes, impact of government policy changes on business and industry, impact of government policy changes on business and industry. So the policy of liberalization, privatization and globalization, that is LPG, the policy of LPG the government has made a significant impact on the working of enterprise in business and industry. It has made a significant change or impact on the working of enterprise in business and industry. The Indian corporate sector has come face to face with several challenges due to the government policy changes. Yeah, the Indian corporate sector has come face to face with several challenges due to government policy changes. So these challenges can be explained as below. So the first one is increasing competition. So what are the changes which took place after the industrial policy or after implementation of liberalization, privatization and globalization? So the first point is increasing competition. Okay, so when coming to increasing competition, as a result of changes in the rules of industrial licensing. So when liberalization came into existence, the license were totally, or the rules and regulations were totally changed. Yeah, so as a result of changes in the rules of industrial licensing and entry of foreign firms, it is globalization. One is liberalization and globalization, that is nothing but changes in rules of industrial licensing is liberalization, and entry of foreign firm is globalization. So competition for Indian firms has increased, especially in service sectors or service industry. So competition for Indian firms has increased, especially in service industry. So like telecommunication, maybe, or airlines or banking industry. So all these are service sector. Yes, it may be telecommunication, airlines, banking, insurance. Yes, so all these organization or all these sectors, so which were earlier in the public sector. So all these were given to public sector before. Yes, so it may be banking or insurance or airlines or anything. So all these were given to the government, or it was under the control of the public sector. Yeah, so after 1991, what it did is the industrial licensing, that is the changes in industrial licensing took place, the entry of foreign firms. Yes, and also the competition for Indian firms totally increased. So this give rise to different changes in the economy. So it led to what increase in competition in the Indian economy. The second one is more demanding customers. More demanding customers. So customers today have become more demanding because they are well informed about each and everything which are available in the market. So as each and everything is made known to them or informed to them, they have, or they are totally demanding. So they have become more demanding because of a reason that they are well informed about the market. So increased competition in the market gives the customer wider chance. So when the competition increases, so obviously in order to stay strong in the market for a long period of time, what each and every producer does is he will see that the needs and requirement of the customer is what satisfied. Okay, so increased competition in the market gives the customer wider choice in purchasing better quality of goods and services. Wider choice in providing or purchasing better quality of goods and services. So the demand has been increasing after the impact of government policy, that is liberalization or privatization and globalization. So the third one is rapidly changing technological environment. Rapidly changing technological environment. So increased competition, what it does is it forces the firm to develop new ways to survive and grow in the market. It helps, or it forces the firm to develop new ways to survive and grow in the market. So in order to grow in the market, what it has to do is it has to see that it is bringing something which is new into the market, that is it is getting some updated, or the organization should see that it is getting updated according to the changes that are taking place in the economy. So increased competition, what it does is it forces the firm to develop new ways to survive and grow in the market. So new technologies make it possible to improve machines or process products and services. So when you are totally technically outdated, when you are totally technically outdated, then it is really very problematic. Why? Because you can't do the things according to the requirement, or you can't finish the work in time. Why? Because the new technology, you are not updated with the new technology. When you are outdated, ಯಾವಾಗ ನೀವು outdated ಆಗಿರ್ತೀರಿ, what happens is like you cannot do that particular work or finish that particular work within time. Okay, so it's very important for each and every organization to see that it is getting updated with time. Yes, that is with the technology. So according to the technology changes, what the organization has to do is it has to make necessary changes. So then coming to improving machinery, maybe, yes, so you can't have the same outdated machinery every now and then. What you have to do, you have to upgrade the machinery, the processes maybe, or the products and services. So all this becomes very important. So the rapidly changing technological environment creates tough challenges before smaller firms. It creates tough challenges before smaller firms. So smaller firms finds it difficult to carry out its activity. Okay, so the next one, that is the fourth one, is necessity for change. Necessity for change. So in the regulated environment of pre 1991 era, yes, the regulated environment of pre 1991 era, why it is said that regulated era, why it is called as regulated era, is that there were also rules and regulations. So regulations were really high in that particular situation. So after 1991, the rules and regulations were totally reduced. Okay, so here, that is after this 1991, or in the regulated environment of pre 1991 era, the firms could have relatively stable policy. Yes, okay, so the firms could have relatively stable policies and practices. So but after 1991, the market forces have become turbulent, as a result of which the enterprises have to continuously modify their operations. Yeah, after 1991, the market forces have become turbulent, as a result of which the enterprises have to continuously modify their operation, Yeah, so which is very difficult. So now it's like the what market conditions, or the enterprises, they have to continuously keep modifying the operation. So before 1991, it was like there were lots of rules and regulations. The changes did not take place at a very past phase. But here after 1991, it's like it has become very turbulent, as a result of which the enterprise have to continuously modify their operation. So the fifth one is need for developing human resource. So when coming to need for developing human resource, so the Indian enterprises have suffered for a long with inadequately trained personnel. Suffered long with inadequately trained personnel. So the people, that is the Indian enterprises, they didn't have trained personnel. Yeah, they didn't have trained or specialized personnel. So the new market condition, it requires people with higher competence and greater commitment. So hence the need for developing human resource. So the need for human resource increased. Why? Because so when globalization came into act, or in India, yeah, when globalization came into act in India, it's like when the foreign investors come to India and invest in India, they expect to have the trained personnel and also specialized one. Okay, so that was not really available in India before 1991. Before 1991, the trained personnel were really not available in India. But after 1991, yes, the new market condition, that is after 1991, the market condition totally changed. The new market condition, it required the people with greater competence, that is higher competence and greater commitment. Yeah, so hence the need for developing human resource took place. Okay, so they planned, or they wanted the people with high commitment, high competence, that is skilled worker or trained personnel was very important for each and every organization. So need for human resource arised. That is nothing but need for developing human resource. So when human resource or need for human resource arises, obviously what you have to do is like you will have to create the trained personnel which are required. Yeah. The next one is market orientation. Yes, market orientation. So earlier the firm used to produce first and go to the market for sale later. Yeah, they used to produce first and then they used to go to market and sell the products which they have. Okay, so the market was totally production oriented. The market was certainly it can be called as production oriented. Why? Because the person who is a producer produced first and then he took that particular product to the market and then sold the product. Okay, so there the person who is a producer is producing the product according to his requirement or according to his will and wish. Yes, he is not producing the product according to the requirement of the customer. Understood? He is not producing the product according to the needs and wants of the customer. He is producing the goods for his own wish or on his own wish. He is not producing anything according to the needs of customers. So that is why it is said that it is a production oriented market. Okay, so in the fast changing world there is a shift of the market orientation. Yeah, like in the beginning it was a production oriented market where the producer is to produce and then take that into the market. Okay, but in a phase the changing world or after 1991 there was a shift of market orientation in as much as a firm have to study and analyze the market first. So what a producer had to do is like he had to study the market, he has to analyze the market, he has to know the needs and requirement of the market and then produce the goods according to the needs and wants of the customer. So now the production oriented market totally changed to consumer oriented market or producer oriented market totally changed to consumer oriented market. So earlier he used to produce he used to produce the goods according to his requirement or according to his wish and then sold to the customer in the market. Later after 1991 what he had to do is like he had to analyze the market, he had to produce the good according to the requirement, he had to understand the market, he had to produce the goods according to the requirement of the consumer and then you had to sell that to the consumer. Okay, the last one is loss of budgetary support to public sector. Loss of budgetary support to public sector. So here the central government's budgetary support for financing public sector. Yes, the central government's budgetary support for financing the public sector outlays has declined over years. Yeah, so the public sectors were no more supported by the government or they were not provided with any budgetary support by the government. So the public sector undertakings, they realize that in order to survive and grow, they will have to be more efficient and generate their own resources. So earlier it was like the government created certain budget for the public sector. Yes, it provided certain budgets for the public sector. But now what happened is after 1991, the budgets which were provided by the government were totally stopped. Yes, it were totally stopped. So the public sector undertakings, what it did is it realized that in order to survive and grow in the economy, what has to be done is those public sector organization have to be more efficient. They have to be more efficient and generate their own resource for the purpose. They will have to generate on their own. They will not get any fund from the government. So they will not get any budget from the government. They will have to raise the funds of their own. So what they have to do is like they will have to be more efficient. Okay, so the impact of this government policy changes, particularly in respect of liberalization, privatization and globalization, it has been positive, as the Indian business and industry has shown great resilience in dealing with the new economic order. So Indian enterprises have developed strategies and adopted business processes and procedures to meet the challenges of the competition.